Hi, and welcome to another edition of Dessert.Devotion. Well, Thanksgiving is right around the corner, and I know that many of us are having smaller family gatherings or gatherings with close friends this year. So I have the perfect sized dessert. Today, our featured recipe is an easy pecan pie. Please don't be mad when you find out how easy it is. At the bottom of my bowl, I already have 1 cup of Karo light corn syrup. To that, I am adding 2 tablespoons of butter, 3 eggs I like to beat in advance. I think it just makes it easier. 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and then I'm going to add 1 cup of sugar. I've seen some recipes that call for brown sugar instead. So if you want to try a cup of brown sugar, or maybe half a cup of the white sugar, half a cup of the brown sugar, that might be something to experiment with. Now I'm going to add the pecans. The only question is if you want chopped pecans or whole pecans. I like the look of the whole pecans. Some prefer chopped pecans. Maybe it's just smaller bites, or frankly, it's just easier to cut the pie. But hey, the choice is yours. After we add the pecans, we'll just stir it all together, and then we'll be ready to pour it into the pie crust. See? I told you it was easy. I'm going to pour my pecan mixture into a frozen pie crust. You don't have to bother to thaw it out ahead of time or even try to bake the crust ahead of time. This pie is going to be in the oven 45 minutes to an hour, so you don't have to worry about that. Next, I just like to garnish my pecan pie with some extra pecans on top, just for a little extra flair. You know a pecan pie is done when you press a fork on top of it and it springs back. The only trick to a pecan pie is you don't want to underbake it, then it's too gooey on the inside. But if you overbake it, those nuts, they become dark and it gets kind of a tough crust on top. So remember, when you bake your pie, pull it out as soon as it springs back in the center. And remember that it's going to have another 2 hours to cool. Sometimes I'll put my pecan pie right into the fridge for those 2 hours while it pulls together, and then you'll really know the consistency that you have. So once I'm done here, I'm going to place it in the oven for 45 to 60 minutes. Just kind of watch it on 350 in the center of your oven. Well, now that pecan pie is in the oven, let us settle in for a Thanksgiving devotion. We have an idea of how we're going to fill our bellies now. We know what our dessert is going to be. And I imagine by now you know what some of your main courses are going to look like. That turkey, maybe a ham, some of those favorite sides. One of mine is sweet potato casserole. Have to have that at Thanksgiving. But I think we should also give some time to think about how we're going to feed our souls this Thanksgiving. And Paul gives us an idea of that in Philippians, in the 4th chapter, in verse 8, where he writes, "Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things." In other words, dwell on the truth, as some versions will say. Think on those things. Dwell on the truth. During this season of Thanksgiving, let us avoid the scandals of gossip and avoid those who are negative and brooding all of the time, expecting the worst. Let us avoid the sensationalism that we see on the news or social media. And instead, let us give thanks for the gospel truth. Let us dwell on the truth of the good news, on the hope that we have in Jesus Christ. Let's not get worked up when others are not accepting of the truth, when others want to spread things that we know is not the truth. But instead, let us dwell on what we know is right and true. We can also, during this time, dwell and fill our souls with what is noble. Let us remember the stories of the saints who have gone out of their way or committed their lives to doing what is right. I think about those larger-than-life heroes like Representative John Lewis, who passed away this year, and many other greats. Let us take the time during this season to give thanks for them, and also those saints and heroes that are closer to home, those in our own families who have stories of triumph and bravery, who have done what is right even in the midst of danger or uncertainty. I think of my dad as my own hero, as he did his small part during the civil rights movement to integrate his own high school. I know that many of you have many examples of people in your own family, loved ones, that you can look up to because of their bravery, because of their noble causes and their commitment to doing what is right. And speaking of which, Paul also encourages us to dwell on what is right. This year has been a year to stand up for justice, to speak up for those who have been marginalized because of their citizenship status, because of their sexuality, because of their race or color or background. And so let us give thanks that we live in a nation where we can stand up, where we can speak out, where we can protest for what is right. Give thanks for the opportunities that maybe you have had this year to write letters to those who are in power, to walk the streets in protest, to give a voice to those who no longer have a voice. Give thanks for the opportunity to vote for leadership because your voice matters. And we also give thanks for those who have paid the ultimate price for justice and for what is right. Paul says also dwell on whatever is pure. And the best example I can think of purity are our children. And so I give thanks for my own children. I give thanks for the children of my church as a pastor. I give thanks for the children of the community and the gift of innocence and curiosity and purity that they bring to our lives, honesty, that those wide eyes of truth. And I also give thanks for opportunities that we have had and will continue to have to care for them, to nurture them, to be their advocate and their protector in our homes, in our schools, in our communities. I give thanks for the opportunities we have to care for them, to ensure that there are laws to protect them against things like human trafficking. And I give thanks for the opportunity to pray for them daily, that we might continue to be the ones responsible for their care and protection. Also, dwell on whatever is admirable. I give thanks for those who are finding the strength to get through maybe one of the hardest Thanksgivings they have ever faced. I give thanks for the courage of those who right now are at the side of hospital beds, spending their Thanksgiving in hospice rooms, those who are waiting through the holidays for a hard diagnosis, those who are struggling financially, those who are grieving during this time. I think on them, I pray for them, and I admire their strength, their courage, and their faith. And I give thanks that we serve a God that has not left us nor forsaken us, and that gives us the strength when we need it the most to get through times such as these. So Paul writes that these things are the things that are excellent and praiseworthy. These things are the food for our soul, and for these things we give thanks. Amen. Here's my pecan pie. It's a nice brown, and let me show you one trick. I have this thingamabob. I call it a pie crust protector. I'm sure there's a better name for it, but it keeps the crust from getting too brown when it's in the oven. You can also use foil so it doesn't get too brown while it's baking. The perfect topping for pecan pie is vanilla ice cream, or you can make your own homemade whipped cream. I'm going to make a maple whipped cream. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of pure maple syrup to a cup of heavy whipping cream. And I'm just going to beat this on high until I get stiff peaks. This is not a super sweet whipped cream, so if you want yours to be a little sweeter, you can add 2 or 3 more tablespoons of the maple syrup, or you can maybe add just 1/4 a cup of powdered sugar, and that'll give you a nice sweeter finish. All right, now it's starting to thicken up and look more like that homemade whipped cream you want. This is going to go perfect on top of our pecan pie. Well, I hope that you all will enjoy this rich and decadent pecan pie. Thanks for joining me for a Thanksgiving edition of Dessert Devotion. Be sure to follow and share my Facebook page and join me for my next edition. See you soon.